everyone. It is Kirsty here from Uploans, and today I have a very special guest with me. It's almost like traveling if I can see someone from another state, isn't it, Victoria?
It is a bit like that, even though there's the screen in between us. It's very nice to see
Exactly.
you.
We can daydream and we can pretend. Now,
100%. I'll see you soon in
oh,
Tassie.
fingers crossed, fingers crossed. And for those that don't know Victoria, which will be most of you, Victoria has her own company which is called Credit Fix Solutions, and she is one of my go-to experts when it comes to anything credit report related. And as all mortgage brokers and bankers know these days, credit ratings and credit reports and what shows up on your credit report is just becoming more and more important. And I think for a lot of people, it's a very unknown sort of an area with a lot of weird rules that even brokers don't even understand. So maybe Victoria, you could start off by letting us know, like, what are some different things that people should know about their credit rating, about looking at their credit report? What do you wish everyone in the public knew before going for a finance application?
Number one is to get your free credit report before you apply for a loan. The biggest mistake we see families making is trying to go for a loan online, applying a few times, getting knocked back, and then realizing they need to get their report. They go to a great broker like you, but by then it's kind of too late because they've made so many inquiries in a short space of time. Then
Yeah.
you're limited to the sort of best interest or best loans that you can get for them. So number one is definitely go and get your free credit reports. And number two is to understand that there are three different credit reporting agencies in Australia. Don't ask me why. I don't understand why there's three. We only need the one. There used to just be one many years ago, which was VEDA, the old CRA report. That's now Equifax. So you've got Equifax, you've got Illion, and you've got Experian. And the data on your reports can be different. So even if your Equifax report is clear, for example, it's important to check the other two because a credit provider may have listed a default or something adverse on your Illion or Experian report. I know that sounds a bit complicated, but it is quite easy to get the three free reports online.
Okay. And yeah, so as brokers, we do ask everyone to get a copy of the Equifax report before meeting with us, because what we found in asking the banks is that's the one that most of them will refer to. But you're right, every now and then you do get something that pops up on one of the other ones.
Mm.
People always say to me, like, oh gosh, I've gone out and I've got a credit card and a car loan and this and that to improve my credit rating. And I will often say to people, I get home loans for people every day of the week that have no credit rating whatsoever. So if someone is looking at improving their credit rating or just being mindful about it, what are some general tips that may be helpful for them?
Well, let's start with the younger consumer who might not even have a credit score, because we see that quite a lot. And the younger generation, they are coming in, they are interested in buying property, getting a car. If you don't have a report or score, it's because you don't exist on the radar. The best thing that we suggest to do is to go and get a phone account, a mobile phone. That will then create an inquiry and create a report and a score. And as long as you don't fall behind, your score should start and maintain quite well. So mostly people sit at about, I think you'd know this better with the best lenders out there, about 650 and up is an okay score. Yeah. So the scores range from 0 to 1200. If you're sitting below 650 and you're not a newbie to the whole thing, you've been around for a while, maybe you've already gone and applied for finance. Couple of tips I would suggest. Number one is to make sure that you pay everything on time, because we now have 24 months repayment history information on our credit reports. And I'm sure you've seen this, and you can't claim COVID, you can't claim I lost my card. If you've missed those payments and you haven't contacted your credit providers, they're just going to stay on your report as negative data. And then what we're finding is that a lot of brokers are finding it hard to get a loan across the line, even if it's just 2 or 3 months missed credit card payments. So go and check all your due dates on all your loans and make sure you've set up direct debits if you can, to make sure the payments go through on time. So I do my payments about a week before they're due, just in case, because it freaks me out so much. And if you think you're going to get into a bit of trouble, or there's some financial changes, they may only be temporary, make sure you contact all your credit providers and set up formal assistance packages. And that way they won't report the missed month's payments on your credit reports. And the second top tip I've got is to not try not to inquire as much as you can. So what we're seeing
Points
is,
shopping for credit cards. Those are the worst because
yeah,
they're like,
they're
oh, but the
worse.
NAB credit card, and then there's the Westpac credit card, and then the Virgin credit card. And I'm like, no, please stop.
So stop, time out, time out.
Yes.
Yeah, and then you might go to Bunnings, or you might go to Target, or you might go to Gucci, and you figure, oh, you know what? I'll just use ZipPay or a buy now pay later scheme to pop, the barbecue on for 3 months. And I get how a consumer thinks, and they're thinking, I'm managing my money better. I'm going into an interest-free payment plan. I'm not getting another credit card out. I'm just using a buy now pay later facility. But the issue the brokers are then having is that, and even if it doesn't pop up on your credit report, it will show in your bank account statements, and then brokers, you're having to supply those to the banks. And the way that lenders or people in the credit teams anyway are looking at the buy now pay later loans is that potentially the consumer has bad money management. Now, we get that there's a cohort of families that use buy now, pay later, for example, to pay off the kids' braces over 3 months. Of course, it seems smarter than getting a credit card or being out of pocket, with a big chunk of money coming out. But the effect with getting loan approvals, then, if you've got one or two of those coming up, they are having a bit of an adverse effect on some families getting finance. So just don't go for buy now, pay later. Don't inquire online. You only probably need one credit card. If you've got four and you're not really using them, close three and just keep one open and make sure you pay it on time. So you've got really great repayment history coming up.
Exactly. And I always say to people, if it seems like it's too good to be true, it probably is. So that's where
Yeah,
those buy now, pay later schemes fit in. And the number of people that actually have that issue of late credit card repayments on Harvey Norman Go cards, that
Mhm.
Latitude credit card, because the statements are done in an unusual way with that one. And you wouldn't think everything else would be perfect, but the amount of trouble that actually gives us later on down the track, if we do see those late payments on a credit report, 100% agree with everything you've said there. So that's great. Now, if someone does find a default or a mistake on their credit report, what should be their first step if they do get that credit report for a finance application and then go, oh my gosh, what's this?
Okay, so if it's a default, let's just stick with that because there are a few different types of adverse information. Actually, let's go to personal information first. If you go into your report and you see that your personal information is wrong, all you need to do is lodge a request to the credit reporting agency online. So if it's Equifax, they have a portal. If it's Illion, they have a portal. Attach their credit report, just follow the prompts, fill in the form, and Equifax or Illion or Experian will come back within 30 days and they'll correct the personal information. So wrong address, maybe wrong date of birth. They've called you Mrs. and you've definitely been a Mr. your whole life. They will change that. You can do that yourself. It does take 30 to 45 days though for them to come back to you. Any other data on there listed by credit providers, whether it's inquiries you dispute, repayment history information you dispute, or defaults, you have to go to the credit provider themselves and they have to issue the request to Equifax or to Illion to amend that information. So although with a default, you can, for example, if you've got a default on your Equifax report, you can lodge a correction request for Equifax to investigate the default, but they will only look at whether the default warning notices were sent out correctly. And there's a ton of other reasons why default isn't valid, but their corrections team will only look at the default warning notices. So yes, you have a chance that Equifax may remove the default, but if there was a dispute, if there was hardship, if you had, family problems, divorce, that sort of thing, the Equifax corrections team can't apply that and go, okay, we'll remove the default. Those arguments you have to take back to the credit provider. Same with inquiries and repayment history information. You have to lodge a formal request to the credit provider to investigate and potentially remove or amend the data that you're disputing. Now, that can take the credit provider about 4 to 8 weeks to get back to you, and you pretty much have one shot of getting them to remove it. So it can't just be you want them to remove it, a default, for example, because you've now paid it. Now, if you then submit that to the credit provider and go, hey, remove the default because I've paid it, they're going to say no. You've then lost your chance to further investigate the default removal. So yes, you can do it yourself. I would suggest looking up the credit reporting code and looking up credit repair. We've got an ebook on credit repair as well for consumers. Happy to share that if you want to send that out to people. But
Yeah, we can put a link to it on this post,
yeah,
actually.
let's
Yeah.
put a link to the ebook and they can just open that up. Yeah, that'll be good. But you do have one shot, so make sure you read and study. It took me a couple of years to learn how to do it, so if you're going to give it a shot, make sure you do research first.
Okay. And I have sent a number of clients your way who have had a really, really
Yeah,
successful
thank you.
outcome, which is why we're having this conversation now, because I only
Yep.
refer to people that I know can actually get the job done. Tell me how your company actually assists people. If they've got a default showing on their credit report, it's impacting them from getting, say, a mainstream lender who's going to give them a really good interest rate. Usually as a broker, we can find an option, but it may not be as cheap and there may be more fees associated. But if someone wants to remove a default, say, from their credit report, how do you guys get involved?
Well, what we do is we have a chat to them over the phone first and talk a little bit about the default listing. We'll just keep it simple and say one. I think we helped a lovely client of yours with 4 or 5 default removals recently. He was absolutely over the moon. Anyway, another story. But say you've got one default, you've tried to contact the credit provider. They said, no, we're only going to mark it as paid. And you want someone who's really, really good at this to look into it for you. That's what we do. So, I mean, as you know, I've been doing credit repair for a long time, 13 years now. So I've run thousands of investigations successfully for families across the country, which is awesome. What we're doing is we go to the credit provider and we're acting on the consumer's behalf. So we're saying, hey, you've got a default here. We'd like to investigate that. We then go into written negotiations. We get a whole bunch of documents in from the credit provider. And what I specialize in, so I carry our ACL, our debt management firm license to do credit repair. I go through all those documents and I'm applying the credit reporting code, the Privacy Act. It may be commercial, so it's commercial legislation. Applying that to the account leading up to the time that they've listed the default and trying to find a legal error. So all of that takes about maybe 3 to 6 weeks to get documents in. Then I go into written negotiations. Hopefully we do come to a resolution where they agree that we found some legal grounds to remove that particular default. Then they write back to us and they say, hey, yeah, look, we agree to remove it. At that point, our clients pay us a fee, which is good. And that's why you've referred to us. That's why a lot of brokers refer to us, because their clients don't get charged unless we can get a removal.
Which to me gives me such a sense of like
Yeah.
confidence in terms of sending someone to you. Because if you're
you.
not able to do it, you don't charge them anything, even though I mean, like the hours that it must take you sometimes to
Yeah.
work on a file where you don't have the outcome. But then at least I feel like the client isn't going to be paying for something that doesn't happen. So it's great.
Yeah, no, totally. And it's a bit, it's like your job, you're not going to spend, 10 hours and 2 months putting a deal together if your clients don't service with their income. So we're very careful. I've got a lovely little sales team here in Sydney with me, and I train them all. But we always ask the question, like, what happened leading up to the time of the default? Now, if that consumer just says, oh, I was just young, dumb, and I was an idiot, sorry to those of you who said that to me over the years, I probably don't have legal grounds. I can't go to a bank and go, sorry, he was just young, dumb, and stupid.
Sorry.
So we're very careful. It is a thorough assessment up front. And, if they can't afford our services and it's not going to be a benefit and we don't have a clear legal argument, we're not going to take them on. We're better off sending them back to you so that you can go and look at your non-bank options so they can still get into that property, that they want to buy, whatever they're doing.
Absolutely. And one of the last clients I sent to you, I did a full comparison. I said, look, we can attack it this way and we can look at those non-bank options. Here's what our interest rates and fees would be. Or we can give Victoria and her team an opportunity to remove it. And then we've got all these, traditional options. And so, yeah, sometimes it does make sense to do it and sometimes it doesn't. And I know that you have said to one of my clients, look, we don't have an ability to help with that. We have an ability to help with this. And so it's good for a client to know upfront, because sometimes waiting these things out, as far as waiting for them to drop off your credit report, even if they're paid, it's a very, very long process. So
yeah, I mean, it's 5 years.
Have a faster option. Yeah.
So if you've got a default from last year, you're going to be paying higher interest rates, for another 4 years. So yeah, definitely. I mean, we did a case study with a broker for the advisor the other week, and it was a $300 a week saving, just removing one small default. It was just crazy. So yeah, it does make a difference.
Awesome. All right. Well, that is great. What we will do is we will put this on our website. We will link to the ebook on there. And thank you so much for your time. Always appreciate it. All right.
Yeah, so nice to see you.